Storyteller, songwriter, performer. He's been at it for over 40 years. He has shared the stage with Arlo Guthrie, Pete Seeger, Janis Joplin, and Townes Van Zandt. He is not only one of the founding members of KPFT and former programmers, but he also played at Anderson Fair during the early years. Mr. Don Sanders, welcome back to KPFT. How you doing, my man?
Thank you. I'm doing great. You know, somebody told me they heard you announcing it this morning. Somebody called me at 11:15 and said, "You gonna be on KPFT?" And I said, "Yeah." "You heard that they announced it?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "I'm bad. I'm double wide."
Right. I'm glad you came in, man. It's great to see you again. You've been keeping pretty busy, and I know that you've recently. Now, this CD is not actually out yet, is it?
Well, you can get it, but it's not official.
Okay.
It's not official yet, but yeah, you can get it on CD Baby or Amazon or.
And you're working out an agreement with Anderson Fair to have a CD release party there sometime next month.
Yeah, we're hoping to be September, mid-September. Yeah.
Thanks. Sounds good. Let's talk about the CD for a little bit. I know that it was 5 songs from an EP you put out in 1972.
Let's see. Yes. Let's see. 5 songs from an LP.
Okay.
That came out in '72. That had 5 songs on it, and then a long story that I had created on the other side, and we couldn't find the tapes for that anymore. It was a rambling story with a song embedded in it. Yeah. So anyway, we got 5 songs from the first LP, and then
4 studio recordings.
And then 4 studio recordings of the second half LP. It was a LP, but on the obverse side, it had an etching by Bill Nerum, the artist who created a bunch of the ZZ Top album covers and their stage sets. Bill was a very, very well-known artist. Died last year.
And those 4 songs were recorded in '73, and Rocky Hill plays bass on that.
Yeah, he plays guitar on it. Yeah, okay. He plays several guitars on it. Yeah, and then
nice.
And then also Frank was on that. I'm probably not supposed to say that. Frank Hill from ZZ Top played drums on one of the cuts. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, why aren't you supposed to talk about that?
Well, I mean, he did it under the name. Right. I mean, you know, contractual stuff.
They can't come back to haunt him 40 years later.
Yeah. Hope not.
Right.
Hope not.
And the 4 last tracks on it were recorded live at Anderson Fair in 1974. And Rock Romano actually plays fiddle and mandolin on some of those live performances.
He plays bass. He plays
bass.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very nice. And it was Rock who found all these old recordings at Red Shack. Is that?
Well, I found them, located them in my attic and elsewhere, and then Rock went through and technically he had to bake some of the tapes. You know, some of the tapes will fall apart if you don't heat them up, and you have to heat them up at a particular temperature, maybe 130 degrees in a convection oven for 24 hours.
Wow, like some chemistry involved.
Yeah,
here.
And then you can play them without the surface material peeling off.
Okay.
And you can play them for about a month and recover the sound, and transfer it into a digital domain.
Okay, so most of that was done over at Red Shack, but the digital part was done at Sugar Hill. Is that right?
No. We the digital part was done at Rock's at Red Shack, but we struggled. You know, the old 8-track recorders that were available in the 70s were 1-inch machines. They were big tape, but there was no one in town other than Andy who had an 8-track machine anymore that functioned, and his kind of functioned on 7 tracks. So we would have to make a pass through and capture 7 tracks, and then move one of the cards, one of the components of the recorder down to another track and make another pass through and pick it up. So it was a complicated process.
Right.
Yeah.
Don Sanders live in the KPFT studio. Where can you get it? You can get it online. Where can folks find it online?
CD Baby, Amazon.com, and iTunes.
Okay.
You can get it. What do you call those downloads instead of physical product?
Right. Don Sanders live in the KPFT studio. What are you going to sing for us first, Don?
I'm going to do a song that's on the CD, and it's a song that maybe the first song I ever wrote. I think it probably is, called The Coffee Song. And this used to get a lot of play on KPFT in the early years.
Now, was that when you were sitting in this chair DJing?
Well, that and before, and even before. Yeah.
All right, we'll talk about your radio show next.
Yeah. I see my toe and my toe sees me, but we're so far apart that we never can be the friends that we'd like to, the pals we dream of. It's a children's fairy story, admiration kind of love. I'm waiting for my coffee to boil, waiting for my coffee to boil. No matter what I say, it'll be just another word, waiting for my coffee to boil. I was a boy, I could never figure out why all the grown-ups were never without at least one cup of coffee at the starting of the day. And while they drank it, they seemed so far away. Now I'm waiting for my coffee to boil, waiting for my coffee to boil. No matter what I say, it'll be just another word, waiting for my coffee to boil. Morning is such a delicate time, when old and wakeful men find they've worried at the time, and boys wake from dreams of loves they've never known, and elementary children wake up wishing they were grown. Now I'm waiting for my coffee to boil, waiting for my coffee to boil. No matter what I say, it'll be just another word, waiting for my coffee to boil.
Beautiful. Don Sanders live at the KPFT studio. First song you ever wrote. That must have been in the late 60s, 68, 69?
69, I think, yeah, maybe,
Okay.
yeah.
And how old were you at the time?
I don't want to confess. I don't want to confess.
All right, we won't talk about that. But right around that time, KPFT was actually starting to form, and you had some...
Right. The concept was out there, and Don Gardner and Larry Lee were talking to people and raising money and hustling everybody in town to try to make it come together. And they hustled me.
Right.
And it worked. I loved the idea,
So
and
now,
still do love the idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And when they got it up and running, were you on the air then, or did it take you a year or two to
No, I was when it first came on the air. I may have been in Berkeley.
Okay.
When they actually signed on, and I came back for sure to do the back on the air after the bombing. I remember actually coming via auto. We drove, like hours and hours, 24 hours. I can't, from San Francisco to Houston. Anyway, and I'm not sure when I first pulled an air shift. I'd have to go back and look in my journals.
Okay. 73.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And what was your on-air name?
Donnie Joe DJ.
Donnie Joe DJ.
Yeah.
And what was the name of your radio program back then?
That was it.
The Donnie Joe DJ
Joe,
show?
Yeah.
Okay. And how long did you have a program here at 90.1?
Well, off and on, I had a show up until about 84, 85, something like that. And then my schedule got to the point where I couldn't do it anymore. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. You have a major in Spanish literature.
Yeah.
And so tell people a little bit about the Tejas Storytelling Association.
Well, it's an organization based here in Texas of storytellers, and storytelling became, I guess, what you'd call a more mainstream art, or more. There was a resurgence of storytelling, an interest in storytelling in the late 70s, and it coincided with the fact that a lot of librarians did story time at the library, but colleges started offering courses in storytelling, and you can actually get a master's in storytelling at East Tennessee State University,
okay,
and some other universities, and it's a kind of a hybrid art. A lot of the people in storytelling would not like me saying this, but it's a dramatic art that is really focused on vocal inflection, but you also use your body for expression. And I do stories that are both historical in content, based on WPA materials, Works Progress Administration interviews with cowboys and loggers and former slaves, and stories from true stories. And then I also do folk tales, interpret Latin American folk tales.
Okay, very nice. Don Sanders, live in the KPFT studio. Been part of the Houston music scene since the late 60s and early 70s. Just heard him talk about some of his broadcast days here at KPFT, and you've kind of taken the storytelling and mixed in some children's songs. And tell folks about some of the performances that you do at schools across Texas.
Well, I have half a dozen shows that I've written that I do in schools, and yes, they combine traditional music with storytelling. And one of the shows is called Sourdough Cowboy, and relies on these WPA interviews with oral history projects. The WPA, in case people don't know, was a Roosevelt program back in the Depression, and they employed unemployed writers to go around and take down oral history all over the United States. And so here in Texas, of course, they interviewed a lot of cowboys.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I use that material. Then I have another show that relies on the oral history of the petroleum industry, the early days, the 1900s. And then a couple of shows of Latin American folk tales and folk songs.
Very nice.
Yes.
And I guess you're off this summer because not a lot of schools are open.
Right. Yeah, I work schools, and then I work in libraries until the end of June, and then usually I try to write in July and August.
Okay. How's that coming so far?
Well, pretty good. Pretty good.
Okay.
We're working.
Sure. Don Sanders, live in the KPFT studio.